Thank you for joining us this evening to learn more about our Bachelor's of Science in Human Biology at Logan University. This evening, we have with us Zach Becker, the Admissions Manager, and current Logan student Kayla Mulligan. So Zach Becker, the Admissions Manager of the Logan University College of Health Sciences, joined Logan's Office of Admissions in 2015. With a Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology from Truman State University, Zach has discovered a true passion for helping students take the next step in their educational and professional careers. Zach looks forward to discussing the opportunities of the online Bachelor's in Human Biology, as well as the resources Logan has in place to ensure your success in this next chapter of your education. Logan student Kayla Mulligan was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii, with a lifelong passion for helping animals. When she graduates with her Bachelor's in Human Biology from Logan in April 2022, she will be fulfilling all the requirements to attend veterinary school, her ultimate goal. Kayla looks forward to sharing her experiences from Logan in hopes of helping students further their education. So Zach, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, that sounds great. Hi, everybody. Like Stephanie said, my name is Zach Becker. I'm the admissions manager at Logan University. So if you do decide to move forward in the admissions process, you'll likely be speaking with me at some point. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you taking a few minutes to jump on here and learn a little bit more about our program. I'm going to just talk more about general information, admission steps, things like that. And then I think the person that might be a little more interesting for everybody to hear from is Kayla. So I'll give her an opportunity to just kind of say hello and introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kayla. I'm from Maui, Hawaii, and I'm very happy to be sharing all of my experiences that I've had here at Logan University. Such a great school. I love it. This is probably, I've been to many schools, so this is definitely my favorite so far.
Well, and that's what we're going for. So again, I really appreciate you jumping on here to answer some questions and talk a little bit more about your experience, Kayla. It's really going to hopefully help a lot of people out and help make the decision for their education as well. So again, as Stephanie said, feel free to put any questions that you have in that chat at the bottom of your screen. We'll definitely get to those before the end of the webinar tonight. And then again, as she said, we'll absolutely send out a follow-up link so that you can come back here and watch the webinar in a few weeks as well after after taking a little more time to process the information too. So I'm going to just get started a little bit more on, like I said, just general information about the human biology program that we offer. The curriculum that we have set up is very science heavy. So for anybody who's wanting to go into anything really in health professions or health sciences down the road, whether that's a graduate level program in health science or a career in health education or anything like that, this program is going to be a fantastic fit for doing that. And I know we said in Kayla's little bio that was read at the start of this that she's interested more in working with animals as well. So Kayla, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about your career goals and how this program is helping you work toward that?
Yeah, sure thing. So basically, vet school has the same prerequisites as medical school or anything that's really medical related. We need things like chemistry, organic chemistry, biochem, all that kind of stuff. And so my degree pretty much really needed to be heavily science-based, and Logan was definitely a great fit for that because they offer all of those sciences that I needed and a little bit more, which just overall makes me a better applicant to vet school, because the more sciences that I tacked on, the better looking of a student I am to them, because sciences can be hard. And if you excel at them, then you look pretty great. But it's understandable that it can be a little intimidating because, again, sciences can be hard, but they're actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the title of the degree that you guys are interested in is human biology. but it obviously doesn't relate just to humans as well. A lot of the information that you'll go over in the classes is very transferable if you are wanting to become a vet, or like Kayla mentioned, if you're interested in going to something like med school or PT school or dental school or anything like that. Our program is going to go a long way to helping you get into those programs, and hopefully set you up for success down the road, not only while you're at Logan and immediately after graduation, but also if you do decide to take those next steps and pursue a different degree after you graduate, or just once you get out and start working in the field. This is a program that we are really, really pleased with how the curriculum is laid out. And I think a lot of students really enjoy it, because if you're wanting to do something in health sciences, you're going to get more than enough science in our program in order to do a lot of those things. Kayla, I don't know if you maybe want to talk a little bit more about this, but one of the big selling features for our program specifically is the flexibility of the courses. All of our courses are asynchronous. So, being online obviously is great because it does still allow people to work and maintain, a balance with other things while kind of taking this next step in your education. There's never a specific time of day that you need to be online for classes or anything like that. Typically, you'll just have like weekly assignments that you need to complete. There are recorded lectures and a lot of different things there, just kind of depending on the instructor, depending on how they prefer to teach. So Kayla, I know you're also working while going through this program. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that balance and how that's worked out for you to this point?
Yeah, sure thing. So a lot of students who, at least students that are in my class, a lot of them are in like the military and stuff like that. So they definitely need an asynchronous classroom. And I know it's really helpful for them, and it's actually really helpful for me because I, on top of getting my bachelor's, also need to be getting hours for veterinary experience. And so I do work at an animal hospital, and it does get hectic. And we have emergencies and we have all this kind of stuff. And if I had lectures that I needed to go to, I probably wouldn't be able to go to them if that was required, because I just don't know what's going to happen in the day when I'm at work. And on top of that, I also, since COVID, I have to take care of my mother since she has underlying conditions, and I need to make sure that I'm out with her running errands a lot of the time to make sure that she's safe and we're keeping everything sanitized, and just to avoid any sort of contact with COVID itself. So I would say I'm pretty busy overall, and having this flexibility of being able to do any of my schoolwork whenever I need to is extremely helpful. And even the professors are very, very accommodating. If you need to extend something, they'll talk to you about it. They'll help you through everything that you have. I've had, since I live in Hawaii, we do often have tsunami threats and hurricanes and all of that kind of stuff. And so I tend to email my professors quite a bit, and I'm like, hey, I have this natural disaster about to come for me.
Yeah.
Just so you know. So just in case I might disappear for a little bit. So they're always really understanding and stuff like that. And it's just really helpful to take that stress away of feeling like you need to fit your schedule around when these lectures would be or when you need to be doing school.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that that's worked out for you to this point. I mean, obviously, in the admissions department specifically, we do everything that we can to ensure that all of you guys have your questions answered, that you're feeling comfortable with the decision to move on to school. And a lot of times after you start classes, the admissions department doesn't get to interact with you guys as much. So it's always really exciting to hear that things are still going well, and that you feel a strong connection to the university and a lot of those resources that we have available. And kind of along those lines, I do want to jump a little bit more into that. One of the things that we really, really are proud of at Logan is the academic success coach position that we have. So a lot of schools do have advisors who will help you kind of set up your schedule, figure out which courses to register for. We have academic success coaches at Logan. So they are going to kind of act as an advisor to help you get scheduled for classes, help you plan out your time at Logan, but they'll also be there as kind of a main point of contact if you ever have any sort of issues arise in your classes, or a personal emergency or anything like that where you maybe can't contact your faculty member. We really want that person to kind of be your main person that you're working with your entire time through the university to ensure your success in the program. That's really what what we are here for is to ensure that you are successful in this program, successful at Logan, and successful in the field after you graduate as well. So we do have a lot of resources available for our online students. As Kayla talked a little bit more about, we try to be as flexible as possible because we do understand that we've got students all over the country. We've got international students. We have students in the military. So allowing for as much flexibility as possible is something that we're always striving toward. We want to make sure that everybody has all the resources and all the means necessary to succeed in their program. So especially being online, that's obviously a key component for a lot of people. So Kayla, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about why you chose to come to Logan specifically? I know you said you've attended a few universities in the past. So what kind of jumped out about Logan that, kind of drew your attention here, and what's made you stick?
So because I have attended a couple universities before Logan, I have some experiences to what schools, how they run, stuff like that, and sort of when I was transferring, I was trying to find a specific school, as there's not a lot of online schools that do offer all of these sciences because of the lab components. They really want those to be in person, but I am a true believer of those lab components being able to be completed online. And so Logan was one of the best fits for that. And I had applied to a couple different, because like there's Arizona State University too, and just overall the attitude that I was getting from other universities wasn't the attitude or the atmosphere that I really wanted to put myself into, since I had such complicated relationships with the universities I had gone to before, where I had a similar attitude. And so I was really just looking for a newer environment that made me feel like I was cared about and like I was safe in some sort of way, and that I would be able to go to people if I did have a problem. So like my academic success coach, I have Tara, and I go to her for literally everything. Like, I love her. She's great. She sent me a happy birthday card back in October. I was like so touched. And I just feel like Logan has such a high level of caring for their students rather than schools I've been to before, because I've had advisors before where I'm literally crying in their office and I'm like, I don't think I can do this right now. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, is there other options? And then they would just like wave me off, be like, you're smart, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, that's not what I need to hear. I need support. I need someone to like pat me on the back and be like, we're going to get through this together. And that's what I feel like Logan does for me. Definitely Tara does for me. She's helped me through a lot of stuff this past year, and I really appreciate her, and I really appreciate everything that Logan has really just provided for me and everything. It's awesome, and it's much better than experiences I've had before.
That's great to hear. And I love the word that you used was atmosphere. I mean, we're really trying to create, even though everybody in this program is completing the program online, we really want it to feel like a community and feel like you're still involved at the university, and be able to ask those questions and come to the faculty members or even admissions, after you get started. We're still happy to help out and that sort of thing too. So we really do want it to feel more like a community, and that you're still quote, attending a university as opposed to just kind of off by yourself and kind of cut off from the university and don't ever get a chance to speak to people. That's one of the things that we really try to do for our online students, is help you still feel connected and provide all the resources that our on-campus students have, just in a little bit of a different format. So it's great to hear that the online courses and that online format still allows you to feel like you're connected to the university and that you're, part of the Logan community. That's fantastic to hear. And I know one of the other things, obviously, that is really important for students when they're choosing where to go for their education is the tuition of the program. So I do want to talk just briefly about that. Right now, our tuition is $275 per credit hour, and this is about a 120 credit hour program. So you're looking just over $30,000 for total tuition for the full degree. Now, that being said, we do also, as Kayla said, we take transfer students as well. So that number obviously can drop a little bit if you do have any transfer credit that you're coming in with, and you will just pay tuition as you're going through the program. So, you're not, even if you have a trimester where you can't enroll in classes for whatever reason, or can just take 1 or 2 classes, you're only going to pay for the courses that you're taking throughout the term. We don't have a flat tuition rate per trimester or anything like that. So somebody who is completing our program in 2 years is going to pay the same amount as somebody who takes 5 years to complete the program, which is great. I mean, it doesn't force you to, to take full course loads or overloaded course loads or anything like that in any given trimester. So again, really allowing for as much flexibility as possible there. And I know we do have students who are in the webinar who would be first-time freshmen. We also have some who are going to be transfers. So if anybody has questions on how either of those two processes work specifically, again, please feel free to put those in the chat. I'm more than happy to talk a little bit more about that process if anybody needs to hear that, or your admissions coordinator can always talk with you about that as well. So we have a lot of different ways that you can enter our program, and no matter where you're coming from, we'll do everything we can to help you do that. Financial aid, I do want to talk briefly about that as well. We do have financial aid, a financial aid department who can always speak with you about funding options and potential grants and scholarships and that sort of stuff. That's always a step that is a little bit scary for people when you're starting to talk a little bit more about the finances, but we do have a great financial aid team. They'll make sure that all your questions are answered and that you're comfortable with that side of things as well before you, move forward in the process and actually start the program. So I did just get a question regarding the online labs and how that works. And that's a great question. I mean, we have a lot of students ask that. There are some programs after you graduate, if you're looking to go to med school, for example, that do still prefer you have on-campus labs. So that is something that I would definitely recommend speaking with, another university about. If you do, say you want to go to medical school at Washington University here in St. Louis, I would recommend reaching out to them to see if online labs are something that they are, okay accepting. It really is one of those things that just kind of varies from school to school. I think more and more are starting to become more accepting of that. And the online labs, Kayla, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your experience in the online labs to this point. I know each course is a little bit different, but some of them you will actually still get a physical lab kit sent to you so that you will do some hands-on work at home. Some of them are in more of just like a point and click format online for some of your lab work. So Kayla, do you want to talk a little bit more about, the setup of some of those classes?
Yeah, I totally can. And just to tack on to schools looking at online labs and stuff like that, that is extremely true. Some schools really just don't want online anything, which I think is dumb in my opinion, but that's their choice. Pretty much I've had to email every single vet school that I'm planning on applying to and just basically clarifying if they're accepting online lectures and labs. And I've had to rule out some schools because they're strictly like, unless you took these during COVID, then you're not allowed to do this and blah, blah, blah. So 100% check with whatever school that you're planning on going to or transferring to or whatever, because some of them just straight up don't like online for some reason, and that's their choice. As for labs, it really does vary. Okay, I can use the classes I'm taking right now as an example. So I'm taking Physics 1 and Physics 2 right now, and basically all of those labs are online. We downloaded a program onto our computers, and there's like probably about 20 different applications from the whole kit. And there's one for like graphing, and there's one for sound, and all of the stuff that you are going to be using in physics and stuff like that. And then comparing it to anatomy that I'm also taking right now, I paid for a kit that the professor set up with a company, and I was delivered a whole bunch of stuff. I got a preserved rat, a preserved sheep brain, and a cow eye, and I have had to dissect said rat, and I'm going to be dissecting the brain and the eye on Thursday. So there are definitely hands-on components and online components. I haven't experienced like because in anatomy, we also have online sort of stuff. It just depends on what the week is and what we're learning and stuff like that. So it really just depends on the professor in the class and what they feel like fits best for it. I do feel like the anatomy being hands-on is actually a lot more helpful than it would be to be online, but things like physics is probably better online. And I did take organic chemistry, and both of those labs, all of those labs were online as well. And I felt like I learned a lot that way, and I learn a lot from the labs. It's important to point out, just because a lot of them are online doesn't mean that you're not going to be learning anything, because I can tell you right now 100% that those organic chemistry labs helped me a lot.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that has been something that you don't feel like you've suffered that knowledge or anything like that. I mean, it's definitely still a lot of information. You're getting all of the information that you would get in a physical lab. It's obviously just going to be in the online format instead. So that was a great question. And that was something I was actually planning on getting to a little bit later. So I'm glad we got that knocked out and got that covered. As far as, what questions you all have, I know we haven't really had too much in the chat to this point, but we've talked a lot about some of the things that I did want to make sure we cover already. And I do want to talk before we leave about the actual admissions process and what all goes into that. But is there anybody, feel free to unmute your mic for a minute or two. If anybody has any questions, concerns that you would like to ask either myself or Kayla before we start talking a little bit more about the actual admissions process and what that looks like. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to work up the courage to ask a question or two here. And if not, then I'm going to start talking about all the boring paperwork and that fun stuff. So. All right. Well, if anybody does think of anything, like I said, please feel free to put that in the chat. I'm definitely still happy to answer those questions as we're going through the next couple things on my checklist here. So as I said before, I do want to talk just a little bit about the actual admissions process and what that looks like. So I know a lot of people in here have already spoken with an admissions coordinator at Logan. Hopefully they've answered a lot of your questions that you have to this point. But just to kind of make everybody aware, really there's a couple of main steps in the admissions process that we need to take care of before you're able to move forward and sign up and register for classes with us. The first step, you'll just need to make sure that you do have an application submitted on our website. So if you go to logan.edu, www.logan.edu, there's an apply now button on the website. It should take any longer than 15 or 20 minutes to get through that. It's not too terribly complex. It's basically just your background information, if you've attended any schools previously, if you'd be a first-time freshman, and then just tell us a little bit about why you're interested in Logan, that sort of thing. Once we have your application on file, one of our admissions staff will reach out to you to talk a little bit more about the next steps. Really, the other big thing once we have your application on file is just having your transcripts sent in for review so that we can see if you do have any transfer credit to this point, double check your GPA, and just help you make sure that this program is going to be a good fit, make sure it's in line with what you're looking for, and make sure that all your questions and everything are answered before you actually move forward and get registered for classes with us. So as a reminder, we do have 3 start dates a year, September, January, and May. So we'll start classes all 3 of those terms every year. And the next available start date that we have is going to be in the May trimester. So we do still have seats available for the May term. We actually have a month from today to get applications on file for that. So if anybody is interested in doing that, you definitely still have time to get going for the summer trimester. I'm going to go ahead and input a referral code in the chat box here before we log off to actually waive your application fee. So if you decide to move forward and apply for the program for the summer trimester, we'll go ahead and waive that application fee for you. It's going to be ARR, and that just stands for Admissions Representative Referral. So there's a box at the bottom of the application that just says referral code. If you put that ARR code in there, that'll waive the application fee, so you don't have to pay the $25 application fee, and just kind of help expedite that process a little bit more. So those are really the 2 main steps, kind of get the process rolling in our admissions department, is your application and your transcripts, and then we'll be able to go from there to tell you what else we'll need to do to get you going in the program. I did just get another question of whether the transcripts from Logan indicate that the classes were taken online. They do not. So all your transcript is going to say that you have a Bachelor of Science degree in human biology. It's not going to say anything about the program being completed online or that the classes were completed online. It's just going to have your grade, your GPA, and the fact that you completed a Bachelor of Science degree in human biology at Logan. So, but again, that is something that if you do want to move on to a program that requires on-campus classes or labs or anything like that, I definitely do recommend, reaching out to those schools ahead of time, because we don't want you to, get into a situation where they're under the impression you took them on campus, you actually took them online, and then you're not able to do that. So yeah, definitely do your research. If you know that you want to go into med school, start looking at that, at some of those early to figure out what programs are going to accept that, what programs that might be an issue for, so that you're not running into an issue down the road when you actually start applying for some of those programs. So. Any other questions or anything before we kind of close things up and wrap up for the evening? All right. Kayla, do you have anything else that you would like to say before we log off here?
Also, something about your transcripts that I just recently learned is that if you are a transfer student, your GPA is only counted with the grade that you get from Logan, not from any of your transfer credits. That's
a good point. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we're reviewing transcripts at Logan, we look at all transcripts that you've, all schools that you've attended previously. We will look at the courses from that school specifically. So that's a good point. If you're looking to transfer elsewhere, the school that you're looking at may not take the same transfer credits that Logan took and may not take them as the same grade exactly. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind, is all the courses you take at Logan are going to, they'll transfer the way that you took them at Logan, just depending on what that school is looking at. But anything you took previously that transferred in here may not transfer into other schools. It's kind of up to each school individually, and comparing curriculums and that sort of stuff to see what's going to transfer at what level. So yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or anything, I will go ahead and kind of wrap things up. I do want to thank everybody again. Oh, I actually do have one more question here, and it's in regard to tuition. Yes, regarding our merit-based tuition. That's a great question. I did forget to mention that. So we do have a merit-based tuition. So high-achieving students who have a 3.5 GPA or higher coming into Logan do qualify for a merit-based tuition, which is a reduced tuition rate. And you do need to have, like I just said, a 3.5 GPA in order to qualify for that. So if you're a first-time freshman, you need a 3.5 GPA in your high school. And if you're a transfer student, you'll need a 3.5 GPA from your transfer credits. Yeah, that's a great question. I do appreciate you asking that. It's something that a lot of our students do qualify for. And if you feel like that's something that you would qualify for, feel free to reach out to us and we can definitely look into that for you. Obviously, if we can save you a little bit of time and money, we definitely want to do that. So yeah, that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. Anything else before we kind of wrap things up for the evening? Sure. So yeah, once we do have, so our registration, like I said, is open for the summer trimester. Once you are accepted into the bachelor's program, there are a couple of other things that need to be completed before you're able to register for classes, and that would be submitting a tuition deposit, which is actually part of your first term of tuition. So if you're not able to register for courses at this point yet, that may be one step holding up that process. And then once your tuition deposit is on file, you'll actually have to have your transcripts articulated by our registrar's office. So they'll do a kind of a final run through of your transcripts to make sure you're getting all the accurate transfer credit. And then once that's completed, you'll be able to move forward and register to sign up for classes for the summer trimester. We just want to make sure that you're not signing up for classes that you've already completed. We don't want you to take classes you're already getting credit for and waste that time and energy. So that would be one reason I would imagine where you're probably not able to register for those courses yet. But I can definitely look into that and have your admissions coordinator get back in touch with you tomorrow once we get a chance to look into that a little bit more, just to double check. Hopefully that answered your question. All right. Well, if anybody does have any additional questions or concerns, like I said, please feel free to reach out to your admissions coordinator or to me directly. I'm more than happy to talk with you a little bit more about our admissions process or about the program in general. And we can definitely, do everything we can to get your questions and concerns answered there. So again, thank you very much for attending tonight. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, hopefully you got a lot of your questions and concerns answered. Kayla, thank you very much for jumping on here and talking a little bit about your experience. We absolutely really appreciate that. I think a lot of students do get tired of hearing from the admissions folks after a while. So being able to hear from a current student about the kind of your experience to this point and how you're enjoying your time at Logan, I think is always beneficial. So thank you very much for jumping on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to help. I love Logan, so anything related to that, I will totally be into it. I think Christy had another question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, so if you decide to push your start date, that is completely fine. We can have our, well, for everybody who's not looking at the chat, the question is related to once you're accepted to Logan, are you able to push your start date back? Do you need to have transcripts reevaluated, that sort of thing? So yes, you can absolutely push your start date back if necessary. That's something that you'll just need to speak with your admissions coordinator about. But you will not be required to submit an additional tuition deposit. You won't have to have your transcripts reevaluated or anything unless you've taken any additional courses between that time. So, so if you're taking courses elsewhere and want to have your transcripts reevaluated for additional credit and that sort of thing, then absolutely, yeah, we can definitely do that. But if everything's remaining exactly the same, there's nothing that you'll need to have reevaluated. You won't need to resend transcripts or anything like that. And you would still qualify for the merit-based tuition as long as your GPA is still high enough to qualify for that. So. All right. Well, thanks everybody again for jumping on here. Like I said, feel free to contact me, your admissions coordinator. We're happy to help with that. And this recording is going to be available probably over the next week or so. I'll send a follow-up to everybody that attended, so you can log back in here and rewatch that if you do have any additional questions or anything. Thanks, everybody.
There's another question.
Oh, I did just see that. So yes, transfer courses can go back pretty much as far as we need to. There's no time limit on how far back we can go for transfer credits. So if you took a course, we've had students, take courses even as far back as 1960, 1970 and still transfer in here today. So as long as the material studied is equivalent to what's in our courses, we can go back pretty much as far as we need to for transfer credit at the undergraduate level. So for this program, that's completely fine. So if you took courses, 10, 15, 20 years ago, that should still be completely fine in terms of transfer credit.
So no, not all of the lectures are recorded. Let's see. So I'm taking anatomy right now, and basically what he just has us do is just read the textbook. There hasn't been many classes that I've had where lectures are video. Physics, there's sometimes a lecture that's in video. I know that this is why I loved organic chemistry so much, but Dr. Luderer, she basically recorded anything and everything, and that was so helpful, and I loved it. It really just depends on the professor again. It's different for each person and just how they want to teach their class. I would prefer that everybody had recorded lectures, but again, it's to each their own. So yeah, it just depends.
All right. Any last minute questions from anybody?
To tack on to the how old can a course be, depending on what you want to do with your degree, if you do want to go to a graduate school or something like that, should definitely 100% check with those schools too, because I know that a lot of vet schools, for my case, if I had any credits that were about 10 years old, they would want me to retake it. It really just depends on what you want to do with that. If you're just going for the bachelor's, then you're set. But if you want to go do something afterwards, you should definitely double check with that.
That's a great point. Yeah, anything related to the courses you're taking at Logan or transfer credit or anything like that. Yes, every school is going to look at things a little bit different. So yeah, that's a great point, Kayla. Thank you for pointing that out. Specifically, if you're wanting to go on to any sort of graduate or doctorate level program, that's something that might come up as a potential issue. So yes, definitely look into that again with those schools specifically. If you have an idea of where you want to go, that's something I would definitely recommend checking in with them about too. It's a very good point. Okay, well, we will wrap things up there. Thanks again, everybody. I put my email address in the chat, so if you do have any additional questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me directly, or obviously your admissions coordinators can definitely answer those questions as well. Thanks again to Kayla. Really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. And thank you to everybody that was able to jump on here. We look forward to working with you.